The Buddha taught that the heaviest suffering does not come from what others do to us, but from our clinging and carrying that resentment without letting go. Hello. If you are hearing this right now, it means the day is over. The noise outside has finally stopped. But the noise inside your head, that has not stopped, has it? You have been strong all day. You held it together at work. You smiled when you did not feel like smiling. You swallowed words you wanted to say, and you carried burdens that nobody even noticed. That takes more strength than most people will ever understand. So tonight, just for these next few moments, I'm asking you to stop being strong. You do not need to fix anything. You do not need to plan tomorrow. You do not need to replay what went wrong today. Right here, right now, you are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to admit that life is heavy sometimes. This is your space. No one is watching. No one is judging. Think of it as setting down a backpack you have been wearing for so long you forgot it was there. Feel your shoulders drop. Feel your jaw unclench. And from this place of honest exhaustion, something begins to open up. Because here's something no one tells you. The first step toward peace is not strength, it is surrender. Not the kind where you give up on life, but the kind where you stop pretending everything is fine when it is not. There was once an old Zen monk who walked with his young student to a stream deep in the forest. They had been walking for hours, and both were parched. When they arrived at the stream, a group of ox carts had just crossed through it, churning the riverbed. The water was a thick brown mess, completely undrinkable. The young monk knelt down and began scooping the water, trying to filter it with his hands. He swirled it, shook it, tried to separate the clean from the dirty. But the harder he worked, the muddier the water became. His fingers stirred up more sediment from the bottom, and what had been settling was now floating freely again. He grew frustrated. His throat was dry, his patience thinner. His teacher watched all of this without saying a word. After a long moment, the old monk simply said, "Sit down, do nothing, wait." The young monk looked at him confused. How would sitting solve thirst? How would doing nothing produce clean water? But he had learned enough to trust his teacher, even when the instruction made no sense. So he sat on a rock beside the stream and waited. Minutes passed. The current slowed. The heavy clay particles began sinking to the bottom, one layer at a time. The lighter silt followed. Gradually, like a curtain being drawn, the water cleared from the top down. Within a half hour, the stream was transparent again, clean enough to drink from, clean enough to see the pebbles on the bottom. The old monk filled his cup and handed it to the student. "Your mind works exactly the same way," he said quietly. "That single line is worth more than 1,000 books on how to calm yourself down." Think about what you do when you cannot sleep. You try to force your thoughts to stop. You squeeze your eyes shut and tell yourself, "Stop thinking, stop thinking." You replay a conversation and tell yourself, "Let it go, let it go." But the harder you push, the louder everything gets. The thoughts multiply. One worry spawns another. A single regret unravels into a chain of memories you did not even want to revisit. That is you stirring the muddy water. That is you kneeling in the stream with your hands, making it worse while genuinely trying to make it better. The teaching here is not complicated, but it goes against every instinct we have. We are trained from birth to solve problems through action. Something is broken, fix it. Something is dirty, clean it. Something is wrong, correct it. And for most of life, that approach works. But the mind does not obey those rules. The mind clears through stillness, not effort. When a thought floats up tonight, maybe a face you do not want to see, a conversation you wish you had handled differently, a deadline that is looming over you, do not grab it. Do not push it away either. Pushing it away is just another form of grabbing. Simply notice it. Acknowledge that it is there, the same way you would notice a leaf floating past you on a river. You see it. You do not chase it. You do not dam the river to stop it. You let the current carry it away. This is not about having an empty mind. No one has an empty mind. Even the most accomplished meditators in history had thoughts arising constantly. The difference is that they stopped identifying with those thoughts. They stopped treating every passing mental image as something that required a response. Imagine you are sitting on a riverbank watching boats pass. Each boat is a thought. Some boats are beautiful, happy memories, pleasant fantasies. Some boats are ugly, regrets, fears, resentments. The untrained mind jumps onto every boat, rides it downstream, and ends up lost in a place it never intended to go. The trained mind stays on the bank. It watches. It lets the boats pass. That is what the old monk taught beside the muddy stream. Not a technique, not a method, just the courage to sit still and trust that clarity will come on its own. Tonight, as you lie here, your stream has been churned by the day. Carts have crossed through it, deadlines and arguments and responsibilities and fears. The water is murky. Your instinct is to reach in and fix it. Instead, do what the young monk finally learned to do. Sit on the rock, watch, wait, let gravity do what gravity does. The heavy things will sink first. The lighter anxieties will take a little longer, but they will all settle. They always do. Your only job is to stop stirring. And as that mud begins to settle, as the first layer of restlessness sinks to the bottom, something else floats to the surface, something heavier than today's worries. Something older. You know what I am talking about. It is the thing someone said to you months ago, maybe years ago, that still plays on repeat when the room goes quiet. It is the betrayal you thought you were over until you found yourself wide awake at 2 a.m, fists clenched under the blanket. It is the unfairness you swallowed because fighting back would have cost you more than staying silent. We carry these things like invisible stones in our pockets. Nobody can see them. Nobody knows the weight, but we feel it in our shoulders, in the tightness behind our eyes, in the way we flinch when certain topics come up in conversation. There is an old story about 2 monks, Tanzen and Ekido, walking together on a country road after heavy rains. They came to an intersection where the mud was knee-deep. Standing at the edge was a young woman in a silk kimono, unable to cross without ruining her clothes. Without hesitation, Tanzen walked over, lifted her up, carried her across the mud, set her gently on the other side, and continued walking. Ekido said nothing, but inside he was burning. Monks were forbidden from touching women. This was a serious violation. How could Tanzen do this so casually? Did he not understand the precepts? Was he mocking the training they had both devoted their lives to? For hours, Ekido walked in silence, but his mind was a furnace. He replayed the scene over and over. He imagined what the other monks would say. He rehearsed the words he would use to confront Tanzen. He judged, condemned, and convicted his fellow monk 100 times before they even reached the next village. Finally, unable to contain himself any longer, Ekido burst out. "How could you do that? We are monks. We are not supposed to touch women, especially young women. What you did back there was a disgrace to our order." Tanzen turned to him with a calm face and replied, "I put the girl down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" Sit with that for a moment, not as a clever punchline, but as a mirror held directly in front of your face. Who are you still carrying? Whose words are still lodged inside your chest like a splinter you cannot reach? Whose face still appears uninvited when you close your eyes? What moment from your past are you replaying tonight? An argument with your mother? A promise someone broke? A time you gave everything to someone who gave nothing back? The weight you feel right now, lying in this bed, is not just from today. Today was the easy part. The real heaviness comes from every yesterday you refused to set down. And I want to be very honest with you. I am not going to tell you that letting go is easy. Anyone who tells you just let it go has probably never had anything truly worth holding on to ripped away from them. Letting go is one of the hardest things a human being will ever do, precisely because the things we hold on to are the things that mattered most. You hold on to the anger because the hurt was real. You hold on to the disappointment because the hope was genuine. You hold on to the grief because the love was deep. These are not weaknesses. They are proof that you cared, that you gave yourself fully, that your heart was open enough to be wounded. But here is what carrying those stones does to you over time. It is not just the weight that hurts. It is the way the weight reshapes you. You start walking differently, not physically, though that happens too, but emotionally. You start expecting betrayal. You start building walls before anyone even approaches. You start reading malice into innocent words. You start punishing new people for old crimes they never committed. The woman at the intersection is long gone. She crossed the mud hours ago, days ago, years ago. She moved on with her life. She is not thinking about that moment. She probably forgot it by the next morning. And yet here you are, in the dark, at the end of another long day, still carrying her. Tanzen understood something that Ekido did not. The act of carrying the woman across the mud was a single moment of compassion that began and ended within 30 seconds. It was clean. It was complete. He picked her up, he put her down, and he walked on. There was no residue left on his hands, no story lingering in his mind, no moral debate playing in his head. Ekido, on the other hand, turned a 30-second event into hours of suffering. He carried not the woman, but the idea of the woman. He carried his outrage, his righteousness, his need to be correct. And that imaginary burden weighed more than any human body ever could. This is exactly what we do with our past. We do not carry the actual event. The event is over. The harsh words were spoken and fell silent years ago. The door that was slammed shut has already stopped echoing. The person who left has been gone so long that the room has stopped smelling like them. What we carry is the story we keep telling ourselves about the event. They should not have done that to me. I did not deserve that. How could they be so cruel? I gave them everything. These sentences are the woman on your back, and every time you repeat them, in the shower, before sleep, during a quiet lunch alone, you are hoisting her up again, carrying her across a mud puddle that dried up a long time ago. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood teachings in every spiritual tradition. People hear forgive and they think it means telling the other person that what they did was acceptable. It does not mean that. It never meant that. What was done to you may have been genuinely wrong. It may have been cruel, selfish, unforgivable by any reasonable human standard. Forgiveness is not a verdict on their behavior. It is a decision about your own freedom. Think of it this way. When you refuse to forgive, you are chaining yourself to the person who hurt you. You are saying, I will keep you in my mind, in my body, in my chest, in my sleepless nights, until you come back and undo what you did. But they are never coming back. They do not even know you are still awake. They are sleeping peacefully while you lie here burning. Forgiveness is picking up the key, unlocking the chain, and walking away. Not for them, for you. An old teacher once put it this way: holding on to resentment is like gripping a burning coal with the intention of throwing it at someone. The only one getting burned is you. Tonight, I am not asking you to forgive anyone completely. That kind of deep release takes time, and it would be dishonest of me to pretend one conversation could undo years of accumulated pain. But I am asking you to loosen your grip just slightly. Pick one person, the first face that appeared in your mind when I started talking about carrying. That one. Not the worst one, not the deepest wound, just the one that floated up first. You do not need to speak their name. You do not need to rehearse what happened. Simply acknowledge that you have been carrying them. Now take a slow breath. As you exhale, imagine setting them down at the side of the road, exactly the way Tanzen set the woman down in the mud. You are not condoning what they did. You are not inviting them back. You are simply choosing to stop letting their ghost ride on your back through every room you enter, every bed you lie in, every quiet moment that could have been peaceful but was not. And if the weight comes back, and it will, because these things do not disappear in a single night, just notice it. Think of the young monk Aikido, fuming for hours over a 30-second act of kindness. Notice how much energy it takes to keep carrying. Notice how tired your arms are. Then set them down again, as many times as it takes. There is no failure in picking the burden up again accidentally. The failure would be in refusing to ever try putting it down. The Buddha himself taught that clinging is the root of suffering, not pain. Pain happens to everyone, but suffering, the ongoing torment that echoes long after the pain has passed, that is always a product of clinging. clinging to how things should have been, clinging to the version of the story where you were treated fairly, where people kept their promises, where love lasted forever. What if tonight, just for a few hours, you released all of those should-haves? Not permanently, just temporarily, like putting down a heavy suitcase while you sit on a bench and catch your breath. You can always pick it up again in the morning if you decide you still need it. But give yourself permission right now to rest without its weight. Your arms deserve a break. Your mind deserves quiet. Your heart deserves a night without rehearsing old pain. Tanzan put the girl down at the edge of the road and kept walking. His step was light, his mind was free, and by the time they reached the next village, he had probably forgotten the entire thing. That is not heartlessness. That is freedom. And right here, right now, in this quiet room, that same freedom is available to you. Not someday, not after years of therapy or pilgrimage. Now, in the space between this breath and the next. Choose to put down one person, just one. Feel the weight shift off your shoulders. Feel the space that opens up in your chest when you stop clenching around a wound. That space is yours. It always was. You just forgot what it felt like because the burden moved in and redecorated. And once you start putting people down, once you begin loosening your fist around the old grievances, something strange happens. The anger does not vanish, but it changes shape. It stops feeling like a fire and starts feeling like a question. Why did they do that? Why did that person say those words? Why did they leave or lie or break what they promised to protect? We spend so much energy on the anger itself that we rarely stop to examine what sits underneath it. And what sits underneath it, almost always, is a single assumption that they did it on purpose, that they chose to hurt you, that they woke up one morning, looked at the options in front of them, and deliberately selected the one that would cause you the most pain. There is a Taoist story from the philosopher Zhuangzi that dismantles this assumption with one simple image. A man is rowing a small boat across a wide lake in thick fog. Visibility is almost zero. He can barely see the water in front of him, let alone what lies beyond. Suddenly, another boat rams into his side with tremendous force. His vessel rocks violently. Water splashes over the edge. He nearly capsizes. The man erupts. He grabs the side of his boat and screams into the fog. "Watch where you are going. Are you blind? You nearly killed me." His face is red. His heart is pounding. He is ready to fight whoever is in that other boat. Then the fog lifts, just barely, just enough to see. The other boat is empty. There is no one in it. It broke free from its mooring somewhere upstream and drifted into his path. No captain, no oars, no malice. And just like that, his anger dissolves. Notice what happened. The collision was identical whether or not someone was in the other boat. The physical impact was the same. The splash of water, the rocking of his vessel, the shock, the near capsize, none of that changed. The only thing that changed was his interpretation. When he believed someone was steering that boat, he was furious. When he discovered no one was, his fury evaporated. The event stayed the same, only the story in his head shifted. This is one of the most important things you will ever understand about human anger. Almost all of it depends on the story we assign to the event, not the event itself. Think about the people in your life who have caused you pain, not the abstract concept of people, but the specific individuals. The parent who was cold, the partner who was unfaithful, the friend who betrayed your trust, the colleague who took credit for your work. Now, consider this possibility, even if it feels uncomfortable. What if they were all empty boats? Not in the sense that their actions did not matter. The collision was real. You were rocked. Water came in. You nearly went under. All of that happened, and none of what I am saying erases that reality. But what if there was no one at the helm? What if the person who hurt you was not operating from a place of deliberate cruelty, but from a place of their own uncontrolled drifting? Your father, who was emotionally distant, what if he was distant because his own father never taught him how to be close? Not because he chose coldness, but because coldness was the only river current he ever knew. The friend who betrayed you, what if their own insecurity was so deep, so unexamined, that they could not hold the weight of your trust without crumbling under it? Not because they wanted to hurt you, but because they were too broken to carry what you handed them. The partner who left, what if they were running, not from you, but from themselves? What if the intimacy you offered terrified them, not because it was unwanted, but because they had never been taught that they deserved it? None of this excuses what they did. An empty boat still causes damage. A drifting vessel can still sink yours. The wreckage at the bottom of the lake does not care whether the collision was intentional or accidental. But understanding this changes where you direct your energy. When you believe someone chose to hurt you, your anger has a target. It feels purposeful, even righteous. They did this to me. There is a villain in the story, and your fury makes sense because it is aimed at someone who deserves it. When you realize the boat was empty, the anger loses its anchor. You cannot rage at driftwood. You cannot punish fog. And so the question stops being, how could they do this? And becomes, what do I do with the wreckage? That shift is everything. Because as long as you are screaming at the empty boat, you are not patching the hole in your own hull. You are not bailing out the water that is slowly filling your vessel. You are not rowing toward shore. You are stuck in the middle of the lake, shouting at something that cannot hear you, will never apologize, and does not even know you exist. The Buddha addressed this directly. A man once came to him enraged, hurling insults and accusations. The Buddha listened calmly and then asked a simple question. If someone offers you a gift and you refuse to accept it, who does the gift belong to? The man, confused, answered, "It would still belong to the person offering it." The Buddha nodded. "Then I do not accept your anger. It remains yours." This teaching works on the same principle as the empty boat. The anger, the insult, the aggression, these are offerings. Someone holds them out to you, and you have a choice. You can take them, hold them, let them weigh you down, or you can leave them in the hands of the person who brought them. Most of the time, when someone rages at you, criticizes you, dismisses you or belittles you, they are not really talking about you at all. They are projecting the debris of their own inner wreckage onto the nearest available surface. You just happen to be standing there. Think about the last time you snapped at someone who did not deserve it. You were stressed, sleep-deprived, overwhelmed, and somebody said something innocent, maybe even kind, and you bit their head off. In that moment, you were the empty boat. You were drifting on currents you could not control, and you collided with someone who did not see it coming. Would you want that person to spend the next 3 years lying awake at night, hating you for that moment? Or would you hope they understood that you were not aiming at them, that you were just a boat without a rudder, caught in a bad current? This is where compassion and logic meet. It is not sentimental to recognize that most people who cause harm are themselves in some form of pain. It is simply accurate. Hurting people hurt people. That is not a bumper sticker. It is one of the most observable patterns in human behavior. The parent who was cold had a parent who was colder. The bully at school was being bullied at home. The boss who humiliated you was terrified of being humiliated by the person above them. The chain stretches back further than any of us can see, and every link in that chain is someone who was once an empty boat that crashed into another empty boat. None of this means you should allow people to hurt you. Boundaries are essential. You can recognize someone as an empty boat and still row away from them. You can understand their pain and still refuse to let them capsize you. Compassion does not require you to stay in the path of oncoming wreckage. But tonight, from the safety of your bed, with nothing to protect and nowhere to go, you can allow yourself to see them differently. Just for now. Not forever. Not as a binding commitment. Just as an experiment. Think of one person whose actions felt deliberate and cruel. Hold them in your mind. Now ask yourself, gently and without forcing an answer, is there any possibility, however small, that they were an empty boat? That they were drifting on currents they did not choose, crashing into people they did not mean to harm, navigating a fog they could not see through? You do not have to answer yes. You do not have to answer at all. The question itself is the practice. Just letting it sit in your awareness, even for a moment, creates a tiny gap between the event and the anger. And in that gap, something unexpected can grow. Not forgiveness. That comes later, if it comes at all. What grows first is simply space, room to breathe. The difference between a chest that is clenched and one that is open. The man on the lake, once he saw the empty boat, did not keep shouting. He did not chase it downstream to punish it. He picked up his oars, surveyed the damage, found it was manageable, and rowed on. That is all you need to do tonight. Pick up your oars, survey the damage, find it manageable, and row. You have survived every collision so far, every empty boat that has ever come crashing out of the fog and into your life. You are still here. Your vessel is dented and the paint is chipped and there is water in the hull, but you are afloat. You are breathing. You are lying in a bed, which means you made it to shore again. That counts for more than you think. And maybe, lying here tonight, you have begun to notice something, a slight loosening in the chest, a little more air in the lungs. Not much, just enough to feel different from an hour ago. The mud is settling. The weight of the woman at the crossroads is a little lighter. The empty boat has drifted past. But now comes a different kind of noise. Not anger, not resentment, something more subtle, more persistent, and in many ways more exhausting. It is the noise of time. The regrets that whisper from behind, if only you had done that differently. The anxieties that scream from ahead, what if tomorrow goes wrong? Your mind like a pendulum swinging between what already happened and what has not happened yet, never resting in the only place where you actually exist, right here. There is a Zen story that captures this so perfectly it almost hurts to hear. A man is walking through the forest when he hears a low growl behind him. He turns and sees a tiger, massive, hungry, already in pursuit. He runs through the trees, over roots, through thorns, tearing at his clothes. The tiger is gaining on him with every stride. He reaches the edge of a cliff. Below him, the drop is hundreds of feet. He has no choice. He grabs a thick vine hanging over the edge and begins climbing down. The tiger arrives at the top, swiping its paw, just missing his head. Halfway down, he looks below. There, at the bottom of the cliff, is a second tiger, pacing, waiting, looking up at him with patient hunger. He is trapped. Death above, death below. His arms are burning from holding the vine. And then a small scraping sound. He looks to his left and sees two mice, one white, one black, gnawing at the vine he is holding, chewing through it, slowly but steadily. This is the end. He knows it. There is no escape, no rescue coming, no way up, no way down, and the one thing keeping him alive is being eaten away, one thread at a time. And then he sees it. Growing from a crack in the cliff face, right at eye level, is a single wild strawberry, red, ripe, glistening. He reaches out with one hand, plucks the strawberry, puts it in his mouth. It is the sweetest strawberry he has ever tasted. Now, your first reaction to this story might be frustration. That is absurd. How can you enjoy a strawberry when you are about to die? And I understand that reaction because it reveals something important about how most of us approach life. Believe that conditions must be perfect before we are allowed to experience joy. We believe that we must first solve all our problems, resolve all our conflicts, secure all our futures, and then, only then, can we relax and enjoy the moment. We treat happiness as a reward that comes after completing a checklist that never actually ends. But the man on the vine does not have that luxury. His checklist is over. There is nothing left to fix, no future to plan for, no past to undo. He has been stripped of every illusion of control. All that remains is this exact moment, this exact sensation, this exact breath. And in that total surrender, he finds something most of us spend our entire lives searching for: complete presence. The strawberry was not sweeter because it was a better strawberry. It was sweeter because he was finally there to taste it, fully, without distraction, without comparison, without the mental chatter of "I should be doing something else," or "I do not deserve this," or "this will not last." This is the teaching that has been whispered by sages for thousands of years, and it is the one we resist most violently. The present moment is the only thing that is real. Your regrets are not real. They are memories, edited, distorted, exaggerated by an unreliable narrator called your mind. The argument you keep replaying did not happen the way you remember it. The opportunities you believe you missed may not have been opportunities at all. The version of your past that tortures you at night is a ghost story your mind tells with the lights off. Your anxieties are not real either. They are predictions, and your mind has a terrible track record as a fortune teller. Think about all the things you were absolutely certain would go wrong last year. How many of them actually happened the way you feared? Probably very few. And the ones that did happen, you handled them. You are still here, which means your survival rate for bad days is 100% so far. The only thing that is actually happening is this breath, this weight of the blanket on your body, this temperature of the air on your skin, this sound of a voice moving through whatever silence surrounds you. Everything else is a story your mind is telling you. Some of those stories are about the past, and they make you sad. Some are about the future, and they make you anxious. But none of them are happening now. They are playing on a screen inside your head, and you have been staring at that screen so long you forgot you could look away. The man on the vine looked away, not because he did not care about the tigers, not because he was in denial about his situation, but because he realized that whether he spent his final moments screaming or tasting a strawberry, the outcome would be the same. The only variable was the quality of his experience in the time he had left. This applies directly to your life tonight. You cannot change what happened today. It is done. The words were said, mistakes were made, the opportunities passed. Replaying them will not alter a single detail. All it does is steal the peace from the one moment you actually have. You also cannot control what happens tomorrow. You can prepare, you can plan, you can set intentions, but the actual unfolding of events will contain surprises no amount of worry could have predicted. Lying here anxious about tomorrow is spending tonight's currency on a bill that may never arrive. There is a teaching attributed to the Buddha. Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. This is not motivational decoration for a wall calendar. It is a survival instruction. It is the difference between a life lived in full color and a life spent watching reruns of shows that already ended. The two mice gnawing at the vine, one white, one black, represent day and night, time itself. Every day that passes, the vine gets thinner. This is not pessimism, it is honesty. None of us know how much vine is left. We act as though we have infinite time, as though we can afford to spend tonight worrying about what might happen next year or next decade. But the vine is being chewed. It has been chewed since the day you were born. And the only sane response to that is not panic, it is attention. Fierce, tender, undivided attention to the strawberry in front of you. Tonight, the strawberry is this bed. It is the softness under your head. It is the fact that you are breathing without effort, that your heart is beating without instruction, that somewhere in this vast and indifferent universe, you are alive and warm and listening. Those are not small things. They are everything. We just forget because they are constant. You know what people who have nearly died always say? They do not talk about their bank accounts or their job titles or the car they drove. They talk about sunlight. They talk about the feeling of grass under their feet. They talk about the sound of their child laughing in the next room. They talk about ordinary moments that they suddenly realized were never ordinary at all. You do not need a near-death experience to see the strawberry. You just need to stop staring at the tigers long enough to notice it. Right now, feel the surface beneath you. Actually feel it, not the idea of it, but the physical sensation, the texture, the temperature, the way your body weight presses into it, and the way it presses back. That is your strawberry. Notice the air entering your nostrils, not a deep forced breath, just the natural flow, cool on the inhale, warm on the exhale. A rhythm so simple and so constant that you stopped noticing it years ago. That is your strawberry. Notice the weight of your own body, the heaviness of your legs, the relaxation in your hands, the gentle pulse at your wrist or your neck. Your body has been working for you all day without asking for anything in return. It carried you through meetings and meals and movements and emotions, and now it is asking for only one thing: rest. That is your strawberry. The tigers are still there. The one behind you is called yesterday. The one below you is called tomorrow. They are real in the sense that they occupy your thoughts, but they cannot reach you here. Yesterday's tiger cannot climb down the cliff to where you are. Tomorrow's tiger cannot climb up. You are safely suspended between them, and the only thing you need to do in this exact moment is taste what is in front of you. The monk who first told this story was not teaching philosophy. He was issuing a reminder. Your life is not the sum total of your regrets and your plans. Your life is happening right now, in the gaps between the worrying, and those gaps are full of strawberries you keep walking past. So close your eyes just a little more. Let the weight of your day settle into the surface beneath you. Let your body do what it has been asking to do for hours. And taste this moment. Not because everything is perfect, not because all your problems are solved, but because you are here. You are alive. And that wild, improbable, temporary fact is sweeter than anything the past or the future has ever offered. Something shifts when you allow yourself to land in the present. The noise fades, not all of it, but enough. The tigers stop pacing. The vine holds. And in that stillness, a different kind of ache surfaces. Not the ache of anger or regret or anxiety, but something deeper and more tender. The ache of sadness. The kind that does not have a clear target, that is not about any one person or any one event, but about the general weight of being alive and caring about things in a world that does not always care back. You feel it now, maybe. A heaviness behind the eyes that is not quite tears, but could become tears if you let it. A tiredness that is not physical. A loneliness that persists even when you are surrounded by people, sometimes especially when you are surrounded by people, because the version of you that walks through the world is not the same one lying in this bed right now. The public one holds it together. The private one is exhausted. You might wonder, sometimes late at night, whether something is wrong with you. Why does life feel so heavy when everyone else seems to manage just fine? Why are you the one lying awake, chewing on sorrow, while the rest of the world sleeps? There is a story the Buddha told that will change the way you see your pain, so long as you hear it not as a lesson, but as a confession from the human species. Her name was Kisa Gotami. She was a young mother, poor and unremarkable by the standards of her village. She had one son, her only source of joy in a life that had offered very little of it. This child was her reason to wake up in the morning, her reason to endure a harsh husband, dismissive in-laws, and the constant grind of poverty. Everything she had, she poured into this one boy. Life. And then the child died. The death was sudden. One day the boy was running through the village, alive with that impossible energy children possess, and the next he was still, gone. The kind of loss that does not register immediately because the mind refuses to process it. She held his body and waited for him to move. She spoke to him. She rocked him. She carried him through the streets, asking anyone she met to give her medicine that would bring him back. People turned away. Some pitied her. Some thought she had lost her mind. And perhaps she had, in the way that all of us lose our minds when the one thing that kept us sane is taken. Eventually, someone directed her to the Buddha, telling him that he was a great teacher with extraordinary powers. Maybe he could help. She came before the Buddha, held out her dead child, and begged, "Please, give me the medicine to save my son." The Buddha did not refuse. He did not lecture her about impermanence or the nature of death. He did not say the things that well-meaning people say at funerals, that everything happens for a reason, that time heals all wounds, that the child is in a better place. He said none of that. Instead, he gave her a task. "Bring me a mustard seed," he said, "but it must come from a household that has never experienced death." A mustard seed, common, cheap, available in every kitchen. Kisa Gotami's eyes lit up. This was possible. This was manageable. She clutched her son's body and ran to the first house in the village. She knocked. A woman answered. "Do you have a mustard seed?" she asked. "Yes, of course," the woman replied. "But has anyone in this house ever died?" The woman's face fell. "My husband passed away last year." Kisa Gotami moved to the next house. Mustard seeds were plentiful, but so was death. Every door she knocked on opened to the same answer. "My mother died when I was young. I buried my daughter 2 years ago. My brother drowned in the river. My father never came home from the war." House after house, street after street, village after village, every family had mustard seeds. No family was untouched by death. At some point during this search, no one knows exactly when, something in Kisa Gotami shifted. The desperation softened. The frantic energy slowed. She stopped knocking on doors and stood still in the middle of a road, her son's body in her arms, and looked around at the village with new eyes. Every house she could see held someone who had stood exactly where she was standing. Every closed door concealed a heart that had broken the same way hers was breaking. The old man sitting in his doorway had buried a wife. The children playing in the alley had lost siblings or parents or grandparents. The vendor selling fruit at the corner had wept as inconsolably as she was weeping now, maybe last month, maybe last decade, but he had wept. Her grief did not diminish. Her son was still dead. Nothing in the world could reverse that. Something else happened. Something that the Buddha had known would happen when he gave her the impossible task. Her grief stopped being hers alone. She realized that the ache in her chest, This unbearable, crushing weight was not a personal affliction. It was the price of admission for being alive. Every person who had ever loved anything had paid this exact fee. Every mother, every father, every friend, every lover, going back through the uncountable centuries of human existence, had stood in a road at some point, holding something they had lost, asking the sky why. And in that realization, something that had been clenched inside her finally opened. Not into happiness, she was never going to be happy about losing her child, but into belonging. She belonged to something larger than her individual sorrow. She was part of a chain of grieving hearts that stretched back to the first human who ever held a dead loved one and refused to let go. She returned to the Buddha without the mustard seed and said, "I understand." This story is not about death. It is about the loneliness of suffering. When you are in pain, real pain, the kind that eats at you in the dark, the cruelest part is the isolation, the feeling that nobody understands, that nobody hurts the way you hurt, that your particular flavor of sadness is so specific, so personal, so uniquely devastating that no one alive could possibly relate. This is the lie your mind tells at 3 in the morning, and it is a lie. The truth is so much larger than your mind wants you to believe. Right now, as you lie here, millions of people around the world are lying in their own beds, fighting their own versions of the exact same feelings. Someone across the ocean is replaying the same argument you replayed tonight. Someone in the next city is mourning a loss they have not told anyone about. Someone in your own neighborhood is staring at the ceiling, wondering if the heaviness will ever lift, feeling certain that they are the only one who feels this way. They are not. You are not. Kisa Gotami knocked on every door and found the same story behind each one. If you could knock on the doors of every person you passed today, the cashier, the bus driver, the stranger who held the elevator, the colleague who seemed perfectly fine during the meeting, you would find the same thing. Behind every composed exterior is a room full of unsorted grief. Behind every smile is a history of damage that no one publicized. This does not make your pain smaller. Your loss, your struggle, your sadness, these are real and valid, and they deserve to be honored. Nothing anyone else has suffered can diminish what you carry. But it can reframe it. Because when you realize that suffering is universal, not as a bumper sticker, but as a lived, bone-deep truth, the loneliness breaks. You stop feeling like the only ship lost at sea and start recognizing that the entire ocean is full of vessels in the fog, all searching for the same shore. And something remarkable happens when you make that shift. Compassion. Not the performative kind you post about, but the real kind. The kind that softens your face when you look at strangers, that makes you a little more patient with the cashier who is too slow, a little more forgiving with the friend who forgot to call back, a little more gentle with yourself when you fail to live up to your own standards. Because you know now, everyone is carrying something. The person who cut you off in traffic is carrying something. The neighbor who never says hello is carrying something. The parent who does not call enough, carrying. The ex who left without a proper goodbye, carrying. The boss, the teacher, the stranger on the train, all carrying, all silently, all behind doors that look normal from the outside. Kisa Gotami's dead son was the most visible kind of suffering. It was dramatic, undeniable, impossible to miss. But most suffering is invisible. Most grief does not come with a body in the arms. It comes as quiet resignation, the dream you gave up on so gradually you did not notice until it was gone. The friendship that decayed so slowly neither of you can pinpoint when it ended. The version of yourself you once believed you would become, now filed under unrealistic and locked in a drawer you try not to open. These invisible losses accumulate. You do not mourn them individually, but collectively they change the weight of your steps. They make evenings heavier and mornings harder and sleep more elusive. And right now, tonight, you are allowed to acknowledge them. Not fix them, just see them. Just admit to yourself, in the privacy of this moment, that you have lost things. People, opportunities, versions of yourself, years you cannot get back. You have lost them, and it hurts, and you are not broken for feeling that way. You are human. The mustard seed could not be found because the household it was looking for does not exist. There is no home that has not known loss. There is no life that has not included sorrow. And if that sounds depressing, consider the alternative. If you were the only one who felt this way, you would be truly alone. But you are not the only one. You never were. Lying in your bed tonight, you are connected to every other person who has ever lain in the dark and wished the ache would stop. That connection is not abstract, it is real. It is as real as the air in your lungs and the pulse in your wrist. You are part of a species that has been breaking and healing and breaking and healing since its first breath. And the fact that you are here, still breathing after everything you have endured, means the healing part is winning. The Buddha did not cure Kisa Gotami's grief. He did not take the pain away. He did something far more radical. He showed her that her grief was shared. And in sharing it, in recognizing that every door in the village contained the same ache, the grief became survivable. Not pleasant, not comfortable, but survivable. That is what I want for you tonight. Not the absence of pain. That is too much to ask of any single evening. Just the knowledge that your pain has company. That somewhere, right now, another chest is tight with the same sadness. That another pair of eyes is open in the dark, wondering the same questions. You are not alone in this. You never were. And that is not a consolation prize. It is the most powerful truth the human race possesses. And knowing you are not alone does something to the way you hold your grief. It does not erase it, but it gentles the edges. The sharp, cutting quality of "why me" softens into the aching but bearable hum of "this is what it means to be alive." Which brings us to the hardest teaching of all. Harder than watching your thoughts like passing boats. Harder than forgiving someone who hurt you. Harder than sitting with shared grief. It is the teaching about letting go of what you love while you still have it. There was a master named Ajahn Chah, a forest monk from Thailand, one of the most respected Buddhist teachers of the last century. He was known for saying things that were so simple they sounded almost stupid until you sat with them long enough for the meaning to detonate. He had a drinking glass, an ordinary glass, nothing special about it, clear, functional, the kind you could find in any market for a few coins. But he loved this glass. He drank from it every morning. He appreciated the way the light came through it, the way water tasted from its rim, the satisfying weight of it in his hand. One day, a student asked him about attachment. How can we enjoy the things we love without clinging to them? How can we hold something dear without being destroyed when it breaks? Ajahn Chah held up the glass. You see this glass? I love this glass. It holds my water. It catches the light beautifully. I enjoy it every time I use it. He paused. But in my mind, this glass is already broken. The student was confused. The glass was clearly intact. It was sitting right there in the teacher's hand, solid and whole. Someday, Ajahn Chah continued, someone will knock it off the table, or I will drop it, or the wind will blow it to the floor, and it will shatter, because that is what glasses do. They break. And when that moment comes, I will not be surprised. I will not be devastated. I will simply say, of course, because I knew from the beginning that this was its nature. He took a sip of water from the glass, smiled, and set it down. Knowing it is already broken is what allows me to truly enjoy it now. This is the Buddhist teaching of anicca, impermanence, and it is the one truth that most people spend their entire lives running from. Everything you love will end. Not might end, will end. Your health, your youth, your relationships, your career, your home, the people who sit across from you at dinner, the body you see in the mirror, the life you are living. Right now, all of it is a glass that is already broken. The only question is when. I know how that sounds. Depressing, morbid, like something you would read on a greeting card in hell. But stay with me, because the teaching is not finished, and the ending is not what you expect. Ajahn Chah did not stop enjoying the glass. He drank from it every day. He held it with care. He appreciated its beauty. Knowing it would break did not diminish his pleasure. It enhanced it. Because when you know something is temporary, you stop taking it for granted. You stop looking past it. You stop treating it as background scenery in the movie of your life and start seeing it as the feature presentation. Think about the people you love, not in the abstract. Right now, lying here, think about specific people. Your mother, your father, your partner, your best friend, your child, whoever occupies the warmest corner of your heart. Now consider that every moment you have with them is the glass. It is whole right now. It catches the light. It holds the water of your shared life beautifully, but it is already broken. One day, you do not know when, you do not know how, that glass will shatter. One of you will not be here. A relationship will change shape. A distance will grow that cannot be bridged. Does that make you want to hold the glass more tightly? That is the instinct. Grip harder, cling more, never let go. But Ajahn Chah's teaching goes in the opposite direction. He says, hold it gently, hold it with open hands, appreciate every sip, and when the moment comes, because it will come, let the pieces fall. This is the difference between attachment and love. They are not the same thing, even though we use them interchangeably. Attachment says, I need this to last forever. I cannot be whole without it. If I lose this, I will be destroyed. Attachment is a closed fist around the glass, gripping so hard your knuckles turn white, so hard you might actually be the one who breaks it. Love says, I cherish this. I am grateful for this. I know it will not last, and that makes every moment more precious. Love is an open palm. The glass sits there freely. The wind can reach it. It can be knocked over. But it is held with the kind of tenderness that only comes when you understand that nothing is guaranteed. Most of the suffering we experience around loss, and this is the part that might sting, is not because we loved too much. It is because we expected permanence from things that were never designed to be permanent. We treated the glass as though it were made of diamond when it was always made of glass. Your relationship that ended, it was a glass, a beautiful one that held something precious for a time. But glass breaks. You did not fail because it ended. It did not end because you were not good enough. It ended because everything ends, and the fact that it lasted as long as it did was the miracle, not the ending. Your youth, also a glass. You look at old photos and grieve the face you used to have, the energy you used to feel, the body that used to do whatever you asked without complaint. But that glass was breaking from the first day. Every candle on every birthday cake was one more hairline fracture. The ending was always written into the beginning. Even this moment, right now, this breath, this feeling of the blanket against your skin, is a glass that is breaking in real time. By the time you finish listening to this sentence, the moment it began in is already gone, already broken, already past. And that is not sad, or rather, it contains sadness, but it contains something else too, something luminous and wild and precious. It contains urgency, the urgent, undeniable invitation to pay attention, to be here, to notice the light in the glass while the glass is still whole. Ajahn Chah was one of the happiest human beings his students had ever met. Not giddy, not superficially cheerful, but deeply, genuinely at peace. He laughed easily. He enjoyed food, sunlight, conversation, the sound of rain on leaves. And the source of that enjoyment was not denial of death or ignorance of loss. It was complete acceptance of them. Because once you accept that the glass is already broken, something extraordinary happens. Fear loosens its grip. The desperate clinging relaxes. You stop holding your breath, waiting for the catastrophe, and start breathing normally. You stop living in a defensive crouch and open your chest to the world. The irony is beautiful. By accepting that you will lose everything, you finally become free to enjoy what you have. Tonight, in this quiet space, I am not asking you to accept impermanence as a philosophical concept. Philosophy is for daylight hours. What I am asking is much simpler. Think about one thing you are afraid of losing, just one. Hold it in your awareness the way Ajahn Chah held his glass, with appreciation, not desperation. See it clearly, acknowledge its beauty, and then gently acknowledge its temporary nature. You do not need to be happy about it. You can be sad. You can feel the ache that comes with loving something you know you will not keep forever. That ache is not a problem. That ache is love, felt honestly. The glass in your hand right now, whatever it is, whoever it is still whole, still here, still catching the light. Tomorrow it may not be. Next year it may not be. But tonight it is. Drink from it. Not later, not when conditions are perfect, not after you have solved all your problems and secured all your futures and tied every loose end into a neat bow. Now. Because the glass, beautiful as it is already broken, and the only thing worse than losing it some day is never having truly held it while it was yours. Holding the glass with open hands, appreciating its light, knowing it will break, this is the posture of a life lived honestly. And as you settle deeper into this moment, body heavy, breath slow, the broken glass teaching
begins to reveal its quietest layer. If everything breaks, if every relationship fades, every body ages, every moment passes, then what remains? What is the thing underneath all the breaking? Who are you when you strip away everything that comes and goes? This is where the teaching moves from practical to profound, from something you do to something you are. There is a Zen reflection that goes like this: no matter how vast the moon is, how enormous, how ancient, how impossibly distant, it reflects perfectly in a single dewdrop hanging from a blade of grass. The dewdrop is tiny, fragile, and temporary. It will evaporate with the warmth of morning sun. But while it lasts, it contains the entire moon, not a lesser version, not a dim copy, the full, luminous moon reflected in totality within something that weighs less than a tear. The dewdrop does not strain to hold the moon. It does not clench itself tight to keep the reflection from escaping. It does not worry about evaporating because it is too busy reflecting. It simply exists in its nature, transparent, still, open, and the moon appears without effort. Your mind is the moon. Your thoughts, your emotions, your memories, your fears, these are the dewdrops. They come and go. They form in the cool darkness and dissolve in the warmth. Each one briefly holds a reflection of something vast, and then it is gone. The mistake most of us make, and this is not a small mistake, it is the foundational confusion that creates almost all of our suffering, is believing that we are the dewdrops. We identify so completely with our passing thoughts and feelings that we think we are those thoughts and feelings. I am sad. No, sadness is present. You are the space in which sadness appears. I am angry. No, anger has arisen. You are the awareness that notices the anger. I am a failure. No, a thought about failure is passing through. You are the sky. The thought is a cloud. This distinction sounds academic until you feel it, and you can feel it right now. Notice a thought in your mind, any thought. It does not matter what it is about. Maybe it is a worry about tomorrow, maybe a memory from earlier, maybe just a fragment of a song. Whatever appears, notice it. Now ask, who is watching the thought? There is the thought, and there is the one observing the thought. They are not the same thing. If you were the thought, you could not observe it, any more than an eye can see itself. The fact that you can watch your thoughts proves that you are something deeper than those thoughts, something quieter, something that has been present behind every emotion you have ever felt, every idea you have ever had, every dream and every nightmare. That something does not have a name because naming it would make it another thought,
but sages and teachers across the centuries have pointed to it using different words: awareness, presence, the original face, Buddha nature, the witness. You do not need to.
You don't need to understand it intellectually. You only need to notice it. Just for a moment, stop paying attention to the contents of your mind, the swirling parade of images and words and fears, and pay attention to the screen they are projected on. That screen is you, not the movie, the screen. The screen does not care which movie is playing. It is not damaged by the horror films. It is not improved by the comedies. It remains perfectly still, perfectly intact, perfectly clear, regardless of what is displayed upon it. Romance, tragedy, action, boredom, they all play across the same unchanged surface. Your awareness is like that screen. Your entire life, every joy, every wound, every triumph, every humiliation has played across it without altering it in the slightest. The 7-year-old who was frightened on their first day of school and the adult who just finished another exhausting day are watched by the same awareness. It has not aged, it has not been scarred, it has not accumulated the residue of your experiences. It is as pristine tonight as it was the moment you first opened your eyes. This is not a belief system. It is an observation you can make right now. Close your eyes a little deeper. Let the thoughts continue. You cannot stop them anyway, and trying is just more stirring of muddy water. Let them float, let them drift, and behind them, beneath them, around them, notice something that is not floating, something that is not drifting, something that has been still this entire time, holding space for everything that has ever moved through you. That is what does not break. Ajahn Chah's glass broke. Kisa Gotani's child died. The man on the vine ran out of time. The muddy water churned. The empty boat collided. All of these events happened, are happening, will continue to happen. Impermanence spares nothing and no one. Everything that can be touched, named, held, or loved will one day dissolve. But the awareness that watches all of this, the clear, silent space in which your entire life unfolds, that does not dissolve. Not because it is immortal in some mystical sense, but because it was never a thing in the first place. You cannot break what has no form. You cannot destroy what was never constructed. The dewdrop evaporates, but the moon does not. Your sadness will pass. Your joy will pass. Your life as you know it will pass. But the awareness that is reading this sentence, the quiet presence that has been listening through this entire night, that does not pass. And right now, as your body relaxes and your breathing deepens and the noise of the day fades to a distant murmur, you can rest in that awareness the way the reflection of the moon rests in the dewdrop, without effort, without agenda, without needing anything at all to be different from exactly what it is. You are not your thoughts. You are not your pain. You are not your story. You are the vast, unbothered sky behind all of it. And that sky has never been troubled by a single cloud that passed through it. So let the clouds pass. Let the movie play. You have been watching it all night. Scenes from the past, previews of the future, faces and words and mistakes and dreams. It has been a long film, but it is winding down now. The muddy water has settled. The woman at the crossroads has been put down. The empty boat has drifted past.
The strawberry has been tasted. The mustard seed was never found because it was never meant to be. The glass is already broken and loved all the more for it. And the dewdrop hanging from its blade of grass reflects the entire moon without trying. You have heard a lot tonight, but the most important thing I can leave you with is not any single story or teaching. It is the silence that sits behind all of them, the silence that was here before I started speaking and that will remain after my voice fades. That silence is not empty, it is full of the same awareness that watched the muddy stream clear, that observed the anger dissolve on the lake, that noticed the grief soften in Kiso Gotami's arms. It is full of you, the real you, the one who has been here all along, beneath the noise, beneath the pain, beneath the exhaustion. Breathe in, feel the air fill you. Breathe out, feel your body release whatever it has been holding. You did your best today. I know it might not feel like it. I know there are things you wish you had done differently, words you wish you had said or not said, moments where you felt you fell short. But from where I stand, from where the teaching stands, you did enough. You survived, you cared, you tried. That is more than enough. Tomorrow will come whether you worry about it or not. The sun will rise. The world will start spinning again. There will be new streams to cross, new boats in the fog, new tigers at the edge of the cliff. But there will also be strawberries, small, unexpected, perfect, and you will find them if you remember to look. For now, let the world spin without you. Take your hands off the wheel. You are not driving tonight. You are resting, and rest is not laziness. It is the bravest thing a tired person can do. Your eyes are heavy. Let them close. Your jaw is clenched. Let it soften. Your shoulders are carrying the memory of the day. Let them drop into the mattress. And as you drift, carry this with you like a candle in the dark. May you sleep with a mind as clear as still water. May you wake with a heart as light as morning air. May every burden you carried today find its place on the ground beside your bed, waiting only if you choose to pick it up again. May you know, deeply and without doubt, that you are not alone, that you have never been alone, and that even in your most difficult hour, the silence within you is vast enough to hold everything. Rest now. You have earned it. Good night.